Stillwater, Oklahoma. AP, Bedlam sure lived up to its name. Baker Mayfield passed for a school record 598 yards, and number 8 Oklahoma outlasted number 11 Oklahoma State 6,252 on Saturday in one of the highest-scoring games in the history of the rivalry. Mayfield threw 5 touchdown passes and ran for another score to outduel Oklahoma State's Mason Rudolph in a battle of two Heisman Trophy contenders. Rudolph passed for 448 yards and 5 touchdowns, but he had 3 turnovers in the second half. Marquise Brown caught 9 passes for a school record 265 yards, and he had touchdown receptions of 84 and 77 yards for the Sooners' 81-51 Big 12, number 5 CFP. Oklahoma gained 785 total yards. Oklahoma State 72-42, number 11 CFP appeared to have lost its last chance when Oklahoma's Trey Brown intercepted the ball off a deflection with 156 remaining in the Cowboys trailing 5,552. A targeting penalty against Oklahoma's Will Johnson negated the play, but the Cowboys couldn't take advantage of the extra opportunity. Justice Hill ran for a career-high 228 yards for Oklahoma State, and James Washington caught 7 passes for 128 yards and a touchdown before leaving the game in the second half with an ankle injury. The game was tied at 38-all at halftime. In the second quarter, the teams combined for 52 points and 540 yards. Mayfield passed for a school record 387 yards in the first half. Rudolph hung in there with him and passed for 258 yards and 3 touchdowns. Brown tied Joaquin Iglesias' school record for yards receiving in a half with 178 before the break. Iowa 55, number 3 Ohio State 24 Iowa City, Iowa AP. Nate Stanley threw for 226 yards and 5 touchdowns, and Iowa throttled Ohio State, dealing a likely fatal blow to the Buckeyes' playoff hopes. Josh Jackson added 3 interceptions for the Hawkeyes 63-33, who beat their 4th top 5 opponent in their last 5 tries at home. Iowa raced out to a 3,117 halftime lead on Stanley's 2 TD passes to Noah Fant. Stanley, following a successful and highly unusual fake field goal, later fired a 2-yard TD pass with a defender hanging onto his foot that put the Hawkeyes ahead 3,817 late in the third quarter. J.T. Barrett threw a career-high 4 interceptions for Ohio State 72-51, number 6 CFP. The Buckeyes allowed their most points in a game under coach Urban Meyer. They committed 9 penalties and gained just 371 yards in their most lopsided defeat since last year's 310 loss to eventual national champion Clemson in the playoffs. Number 1 Alabama 24, number 19 LSU 10. Tuscaloosa, Ala. AP, Jalen Hurts passed for a touchdown and ran for a score, and Alabama sweated out a bruising victory over LSU. The Crimson Tide 90-60 Southeastern Conference had to withstand a rare challenge this season from a league opponent, managing it with big plays from the defense and a handful of timely ones from Hurts. Alabama was ranked number 2 in the first college football playoff rankings behind Georgia, which clinched the SEC East with a 2,410 victory over South Carolina. The Tigers 63-32 kept getting defensive stops in the fourth quarter but couldn't muster a threat. They had to punt twice and then managed to squeeze out only a couple of first downs after taking over at their own 8 with 439 left. Quarterback Danny Etling completed a couple of short passes and gave way to backup Miles Brennan, who couldn't push them much further. He was sacked on 4th and long by freshman linebacker Dylan Moses. Alabama ran out the clock on its 7th straight win in the SEC West rivalry. Number 2 Georgia 24, South Carolina 10 Athens, Ga. AP, Jake Fromm proved he can throw, and block a little, too, in leading Georgia past South Carolina. Fromm, the freshman best known for handing off to a deep group of tailbacks, was underestimated this week by South Carolina defensive back Chris Lamons, who said the Bulldogs can't pass. Fromm was accurate and efficient, completing 16 of 22 passes for 196 yards with scoring passes of 10 yards to Javon Wims and 20 yards to Mecole Hardman. He did not throw an interception. Fromm also had the final block to clear the way for Sony Michel to score on a direct snap, 8-yard run in the first quarter. Georgia 90-60 Southeastern Conference, number 1 college football playoff has won its first 9 games for the first time since 1982. The Bulldogs needed a Mississippi win over Kentucky on Saturday to clinch a spot in the SEC championship game. South Carolina 63-43 had its 3-game winning streak snapped. The Gamecocks also lost hopes for winning the SEC East. Nick Chubb ran for 102 yards on 20 carries for Georgia. Michel added 81 yards rushing. Number 4 Wisconsin 45, Indiana 17 Bloomington, Ind. AP, Jonathan Taylor rushed for 183 yards and a touchdown and Alec Ingold had 3 scores to help Wisconsin beat Indiana. The Badgers 90-60 Big Ten. Number 9 CFP extended the nation's second longest winning streak to 10 and their school record for consecutive Big Ten victories to 12. They also remained one of a handful of unbeaten teams in the Football Bowl subdivision. A win next week would give Wisconsin the West Division title and its 5th ticket in 7 years to the Big Ten championship game. Wisconsin started the game by giving up the first 10 points, then charged back by scoring 24 straight to take control midway through the third quarter. The Hoosiers cut it to 2,417 on Richard Lago's 17-yard pass to Simmie Cobbs Jr. with 412 left in the third. But Joe Ferguson picked off Lago's passes in Indiana territory on each of the Hoosiers' next 2 drives. Ingold capped both with 1-yard TD plunges to seal the win. Bradrick Shaw added another 1-yard run after Indiana gave up the ball on downs. Number 5 Notre Dame 48, Wake Forest 37 South Bend, Indiana. AP, Brandon Wimbush passed for a career-high 280 yards, ran for 2 touchdowns and shook off an injury to help Notre Dame win its 7th straight. Wimbush was 15 of 30 passing and threw a 34-yard touchdown to sophomore Chase Claypool, who had a career-high 180 yards on 9 receptions. Wimbush also had 110 yards on 12 carries and the second TD was a 50-yarder in the second quarter. Wake Forest 53 did not go down without a fight, piling up 587 yards against a defense directed by former Demon Deacons coordinator Mike Elko. Notre Dame star running back Josh Adams left the field late in the first quarter and Wimbush joined him late in the first half. Wimbush was hit on his planted left leg after a 28-yard gain, but left the field on his own power. He had a bandage on his left hand after the game. Wimbush returned for the second half while Adams rode a stationary bike on the sideline as the Irish 81, number 3 CFP totaled season highs in passing 340 and total yards 720 to set up a showdown with number 9 Miami. Number 10 CFP next Saturday night. Number 6 Clemson 38, No 20 NC State 31 Raleigh, North Carolina. AP, Tavian Feaster had an 89-yard touchdown run to end the third quarter and Kvon Wallace picked off Ryan Finlay's pass on the game's final play to help Clemson hold off North Carolina State. Feaster's break loose run up the middle and gave Clemson 81-61 Atlantic Coast Conference, number 4 CFP a 3,121 lead entering the fourth, then the Tigers had to hang on in the final seconds as the Wolfpack 63-41, number 20 CFP got one more shot to tie the game in the final minute. That drive pushed to the Clemson 28. Wallace broke up a pass to Jalen Samuels a few yards short of the goal line, and then an illegal formation penalty by North Carolina wiped out completion that would have given the Wolfpack a first-and goal. Wallace picked off Finlay's final overthrown fourth down ball and returned it 55 yards to burn the clock and keep the Tigers on course for a third straight trip to the college football playoff. Finlay threw 3 touchdown passes for NC State. Number 24 Michigan State 27, number 7 Penn State 24 East Lansing, Michigan. AP, Matt Coughlin kicked a 34-yard field goal as time expired to lift Michigan State past Penn State in a game delayed nearly 12 hours by severe weather in the second quarter. Brian Lewerke threw for 400 yards and 2 touchdowns for the Spartans 72-51 Big Ten, number 24 CFP, and Michigan State was aided at the end by a roughing the passer call on Penn State's Marcus Allen. Lewerke was hit by Allen on a third down pass that fell incomplete in the final minute. The penalty moved the ball to the Penn State 22, and the Spartans were able to run the clock before Coughlin's winning kick. It was the second straight tough loss for Penn State 72-42, number 7 CFP, which fell 3,938 at Ohio State last weekend and may have had its national title hopes crumble for good Saturday. Now it's Michigan State, which went 39 last season, that will take its improbable division title hopes into a showdown at Ohio State next weekend. Trace McSorley threw for 381 yards and 3 touchdowns for Penn State, but Nittany Lions star Saquon Barkley was held in check. He had 0 yards rushing in the first half and finished with only 63. McSorley was intercepted 3 times. Penn State was ahead 147 in the second quarter when the game was halted for a lengthy weather delay. The game had a noon start time and didn't end until after dark. Number 9 Miami 28, number 13 Virginia Tech 10 Miami Gardens, FLA. AP, Malik Rozier threw 2 touchdown passes and ran for another score. Travis Homer had a 64-yard touchdown run and Miami moved to the brink of clinching what would be its first spot in an Atlantic Coast Conference championship game. Braxton Berrios and Christopher Herndon IV had touchdown catches for Miami 80-60 ACC, number 10 CFP, which extended the nation's longest current winning streak to 13 games. Rozier survived a 3-interception night, helped out by Miami's turnover chain, the gaudy bauble that gets awarded amid much fanfare on the sideline when the Hurricanes get a takeaway, making 4 appearances to the delight of Alex Rodriguez, Jennifer Lopez and about 63,000 other people in the crowd. Virginia Tech 72-32 got a touchdown run from quarterback Josh Jackson. He was 20 of 32 passing for 197 yards and 2 interceptions. Number 10 TCU 24, Texas 7, Fort Worth, Texas AP. Kyle Hicks ran for 2 touchdowns and TCU rebounded from its only loss, staying tied for the Big 12 lead and in contention for a playoff spot. In a game dominated by 2 of the Big 12's best defenses, Hicks had 41 yards rushing on 11 carries. That included his 1-yard TD to end TCU's opening drive and his 14-yarder that put the Horned Frogs 81-51 Big 12, number 8 CFP up 170 early in the second quarter. Texas 45-33 managed only 263 total yards in its biggest losing margin in Coach Tom Herman's first season. With freshman quarterback Sam Ehlinger missing his second straight game for the Longhorns, Shane Buechel completed 21 of 44 passes for 254 yards with a 33-yard scoring pass to Colin Johnson. Number 12 Washington 38, Oregon 3 Seattle AP. Washington's Dante Pettis became the NCAA's all-time leader in punt return touchdowns and had a 47-yard TD reception. A year after breaking a 12-game losing streak to the Ducks, Washington A1-51 Pac-12, number 12 CFP kept alive its hopes for a return to the college football playoff by thumping its rival to the south. Pettis sparked Washington's blowout on a frigid, wet night along the shore of Lake Washington. After a sluggish start, Pettis' 9th career punt return TD started an avalanche of Washington points. Washington quarterback Jake Browning threw for 204 yards, and his 2 TD passes tied Keith Price for the school record at 75. Brandon Burmeister started at quarterback for Oregon as the Ducks 55-25 kept Justin Herbert out for one more game due to a collarbone injury. Herbert has not played since being injured in late September. Royce Freeman rushed for 122 yards, but the Ducks had almost no passing attack. West Virginia 20, number 14 Iowa State 16 Morgantown, WVA. AP, Will Grier threw 2 touchdown passes and Justin Crawford broke out of a 3-game slump with 102 yards rushing for West Virginia. West Virginia 63-42 Big 12 became bowl eligible and knocked the Cyclones 63-42, number 15 CFP out of a 4-way tie for first place. Iowa State trailed 200 late in the second quarter and never recovered in losing on the road for the first time. Grier rebounded from his worst performance of the season last week when he threw 4 interceptions in a loss to Oklahoma State. Grier had scoring passes of 10 yards to David Sills and 55 yards to Karan White. Grier finished 20 of 25 for 316 yards, his 8th 300-yard performance of the season. Number 15 UCF 31, SMU 24 Dallas AP. Mackenzie Milton threw a touchdown pass and ran for a score. Adrian Killins Jr. rushed for 2 more touchdowns and UCF stayed undefeated. The Knights 80-50 AAC, number 18 CFP remained the only undefeated team in the group of 5, keeping them on track to play in a major New Year's Day bowl game if they can win out. SMU's best opportunity at an upset fizzled with 5:10 remaining when wideout Trey Quinn dropped a pass on 4th and 3 that would have given the Mustangs 63-32 a first down deep in UCF territory. Killen scored on runs of 64 yards and 34 yards for UCF, splitting defenders and shedding would-be tacklers along the way. And early in the second quarter, Milton found wide receiver Gabriel Davis down the right sideline for an 80-yard touchdown strike. Number 16 Auburn 42, Texas A&M 27 College Station, Texas AP. Jarrett Stidham threw for 268 yards and 3 touchdowns and Auburn pulled away in the second half against Texas. Kerryon Johnson added 145 yards rushing and a touchdown and provided a highlight reel play with a nifty one-handed catch for an 11-yard gain on 3rd down in the 4th quarter. Eli Stove capped that possession with a 4-yard touchdown run that pushed the lead to 4,220. Auburn 72-51 Southeastern Conference, number 14 CFP led by 8 at halftime and made it 2,813 when Stidham connected with Ryan Davis on a 4-yard touchdown reception early in the third quarter. The Aggies 54-33 were forced to punt on their next drive and Shane Tripica, who had a punt blocked for a touchdown in the first half, didn't get this one off cleanly and it went just 16 yards to give Auburn good field position. Number 17 Southern California 49, number 23 Arizona 35 Los Angeles AP, Ronald Jones 2 rushed for 194 yards and 3 touchdowns, and Southern California overcame a big second-half rally led by Arizona quarterback Khalil Tate. Sam Darnold passed for 311 yards and 2 TDs for the Trojans 82-61 Pac-12, who led 286 midway through the third quarter before Tate finally got the Wildcats 63-42 rolling. Arizona scored 29 points in about 11 minutes, tying it at 35 on Zach Green's TD run and a 2-point conversion with 8:23 to play. But Jones ran wild in the fourth quarter, racking up 96 yards while scoring the tie-breaking touchdown with 537 to play and adding another score with 309 left as the Trojans pulled away. USC is alone atop the Pac-12 South after its 15th consecutive victory at the Coliseum. One victory in the Trojans' final 2 games against Colorado and UCLA will put them in the conference title game next month. Number 21 Mississippi State 34, UMass 23 Starkville, Miss. AP, Nick Fitzgerald ran for 135 yards and 2 touchdowns to lead Mississippi State past UMass. Mississippi State 72, number 16 CFP trailed 2013 at halftime, but scored 2 quick touchdowns in the third quarter to take a 2,720 advantage. UMass pulled to 2,723 on a short field goal in the fourth quarter, but couldn't move the ball in the final minutes. Eris Williams added 114 yards rushing on 24 carries for Mississippi State. UMass 27 had the ball in the fourth quarter with a chance to drive for the go-ahead score, but went 3 and out. Mississippi State's Dedrick Thomas returned the ensuing punt 83 yards for a touchdown. Number 25 Washington State 24, number 18 Stanford 21 Pullman, Wash. AP, Luke Falk threw for 337 yards and 3 touchdowns and Washington State beat No, keeping alive its hopes for a Pac-12 North title. Snow started to fall heavily at the end of the first quarter. Stanford hadn't played in snow since a 1936 game against Columbia in New York. Jamal Morrow rushed for 66 yards for Washington State 82-52 Pac-12, number 25 CFP, chewing up time at the end of the game. Bryce Love, slowed by an ankle injury, was held to 69 yards, his worst outing of the season for Stanford 63-52, number 21 CFP. He came in as the nation's leading rusher, averaging 198 yards a game. The Cougars finished 70 in Pullman this season, ____ more AP College Football http collegefootball.app.org and http www.twitter.com app_top25